Narrative. A narrative is literature that tells a story from the point of view of the narrator. There is generally a single event or a sequence of connected events with characters, setting, and plot. All of these things can be real or fictional. The defining characteristic of a narrative is the main character, who serves as the point of view for the story being told. Fiction, it is any creative work about portraying imaginary characters, individuals, events, or places, and not based on real people and facts. Nonfiction. It is a broad genre of writing that encompasses all books that aren't rooted in a fictional narrative. Nonfiction writing can be based in history and biography. It can be instructional. It can offer commentary and humor, and it can ponder philosophical questions. Science. A science book is a work of nonfiction, usually written by a scientist, researcher, or professor like Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time, or sometimes by a non-scientist such as Bill Bryson, A Short History of Nearly Everything. Science fiction. It is a genre of speculative fiction which typically deals with imaginative and futuristic concepts such as advanced science and technology, space exploration, time travel, parallel universes, and extraterrestrial life. It is related to fantasy, horror, and superhero fiction and contains many subgenres. Mystery. A mystery is simply an unsolved question in the attempt to answer it. In literature, this mystery is often a crime, but anything unexplainable can inspire a great mystery novel. Humor. It is a series of funny or comical events or scenes that are intended to make the reader laugh. Novel. A novel is a lengthy fictional narrative written in prose, typically focusing on the development of characters, an engaging plot structure, and a coherent theme. Memoir. A memoir is any nonfiction narrative writing based on the author's personal memories. Memoir is from the French word mémoire, which means reminiscence or memory. They are a part of the nonfiction literary genre and are usually told in the first person. Thriller refers to a genre of fiction where the style of writing evokes a sense of excitement, suspense, and anticipation in the reader. Horror. It is a genre of fiction whose purpose is to create feelings of fear, dread, repulsion, and shock in the audience. In other words, it develops an atmosphere of horror. Poetry. Often organized into collections or anthologies, this genre includes free verse, rhymed verse, and a variety of other types of poetic expression. True crime. Books examine real crimes and events, usually with alarming detail. Many books in this genre focus on infamous murders, kidnappings, or other felonies. History. This genre aims to educate and entertain the reader by chronicling a historical event. Travel literature. It is a guidebooks that take readers all over the world, featuring reviews, budgeting tips, travel hacks, and advice on where to eat and what to see, nature writing, and travel memoirs. Philosophy. Philosophical fiction refers to novels or other literary works that inspire thoughtful reflections on such topics as the human condition, the meaning of life, the nature of reality, the distinction between right and wrong, the purpose of society, and any other big-picture inquiry that would ordinarily fall within the domain of philosophy. Drama. The drama genre is strongly based in a character or characters that are in conflict at a crucial moment in their lives. Most dramas revolve around families and often have tragic or painful resolutions. Mythology. Legend or traditional narrative, often based in part on historical events, that reveals human behavior and natural phenomena by its symbolism, often pertaining to the actions of the gods. Fairy tale. A fairy tale is a story often intended for children that features fanciful and wondrous characters such as elves, goblins, wizards, and even, but not necessarily, fairies. Such stories typically feature magic, enchantments, and mythical or fanciful beings. Detective fiction. Detective fiction is a subgenre of crime fiction and mystery fiction in which an investigator or a detective, whether professional, amateur, or retired, investigates a crime, often murder. Legend. A legend is a genre of folklore that consists of a narrative featuring human actions, believed or perceived to have taken place in human history. Narratives in this genre may demonstrate supernatural beings, elements of mythology, or explanations of natural phenomena, but they are associated with a particular locality or person and are told as a matter of history. Fable. Narration demonstrating a useful truth, especially in which animals, mythical creatures, plants, inanimate objects, or forces of nature that have been given human traits, such as verbal communication. The stories in the fable genre impart some kind of moral lessons to the reader that's easier to take from the less human characters. Biography. A biography, or simply bio, is a detailed description of a person's life. It involves more than just basic facts like education, work, relationships, and death. It portrays a person's experience of these life events. An autobiography, sometimes informally called an autobio, is a self-written biography of one's own life. Short story. A short story is a piece of prose fiction that can typically be read in a single sitting and focuses on a self-contained incident or series of linked incidents, with the intent of evoking a single effect or mood. Romance. Love serves as the focal point of the plot in this book genre. While other plot elements may be present, the entire story develops the main character's romantic relationship and usually ends happily. Fantasy. This genre features supernatural, mythological, or magical elements and characters. Fantasy can be further divided into high and low. In high fantasy, the setting is at the forefront of the plot. Low fantasy involves magic or the supernatural, but is set in our familiar world. Dystopian. Usually, but not always considered a subgenre of science fiction, dystopian novels have emerged as their own genre in recent years. These stories are set in a bleak, grim future, often following a tragic event or disaster. The characters then face oppressive governments, technology gone bad, or environmental ruin in pursuit of cultural or social justice. Action and adventure. Action and adventure novels feature a main character on a quest to achieve an ultimate goal. The protagonist encounters a series of high-stakes situations, and by the end of their journey, they've overcome these challenges and undergone a personal transformation. Children's literature. Children's literature or juvenile literature includes stories, books, magazines, and poems that are created for children. Modern children's literature is classified in two different ways: genre, or the intended age of the reader, from picture books for the very young to young adult fiction. Children's literature can be traced to traditional stories like fairy tales that have only been identified as children's literature in the 18th century, and songs, part of a wider oral tradition that adults shared with children before publishing existed. Satire. It is both a genre and a literary device that holds human nature up to criticism and scorn. It is often political in focus, but does not have to be. In literature, writers use irony, humor, and exaggeration to create successful satire. Women's fiction. This book genre obviously targets a female readership and typically reflects upon the shared feminine experience or the growth of the female protagonist. This often pairs well with contemporary fiction or romance. Graphic novel. Graphic novels are defined not by their content, but by their form. This genre is presented through narrative art with illustrations and typography in a panel layout like that of comic books, but have evolved into their own genre. They can cover content as broad as memoirs, historical accounts, and adaptations of other media. Young adult literature. The young adult genre is fiction geared toward readers aged 13 to 17. YA often overlaps other genres, such as fantasy or dystopian, with a coming-of-age storyline. The term YA was first used regularly in the 1960s in the United States. Contemporary literature. Contemporary literature is literature which is generally set after World War II and coincident with contemporary history. Subgenres of contemporary literature include contemporary romance and others. Folklore. Folklore is the body of expressive culture shared by a particular group of people, culture, or subculture. This includes oral traditions such as tales, myths, legends, proverbs, poems, Jokes and other oral traditions. Essay. This genre often follows a unifying theme. These essays, or speeches transcribed, cover the writer's personal experiences and arguments, usually told in the first person.